Peace, peace. What's good, everybody? It's After Elemental.
It's D Chorus.
And this is Smoke D. Peace and blessings.
And this is Through Our Lens, and we're going to talk about part 2 of economics, right? We're going to talk about, it's kind of like economics slash alleged poverty, right? Okay. And because I don't fully believe that black people are poor, right? More money goes through our hands than most countries, right? We spend poorly, right? We don't retain our money. So I want to open up the conversation about some of the characteristics of our people in our communities, like that we do with money that is not good. Okay. All right, so anybody want to open up and talk about things that they notice about, you know, our spending habits, things we seem to focus on, or, you know, why are black people considered poor?
Right, I think because of lack of ownership and retention of wealth, meaning that we buy things that depreciate instead of things that appreciate and value. Not saying that we don't have the money, but I think we value the perceived poverty is the what we place value on, and it's I think we have to reevaluate what we value because we are wealthy because we have a lot of input things that we can have a value, but we don't value them the same, like value ourselves specifically. Because the value was in us. If you think about the inception of this country, the reason why they brought African people, it was economic, you know, as well as, you know, I think we like the black gold. Everywhere you go, you see, you know, the black people have wealth. I mean, but they also bring value to a lot of situations. So, but the concept is to devalue ourselves so we don't put value on ourselves.
Well, last show I said that we was the cash cow for everybody else.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The cash cow, exactly. Yeah. So everybody's making money off of us instead of us making money. I mean, but
off of us.
Off of us. But I mean, it's just retaining our wealth because we have ingenuity. You know, sometimes you know because we were denied a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? It was always the thing about inequality. Everybody was fighting to try to be equal or be worthy and see the eyes of white people. That's also the psychology of, you know, black inferiority and black and white superiority. Yes. If you think you're inferior, you know you don't place value in yourself. And it is this whole concept of you know, imagery of God and Jesus and how European or just white supremacy mess with your psyche and thinking of the value of you being worthy as a person. So that's the you know the technology, as they say, that puts on people, especially people of color, and the psychological effect that it has. You know what I mean?
So more or less what you're saying is like the mindset.
The mindset. So, yeah, just trying to put value in yourself and your ability. And value, you know, what people hold valuable and what is valuable. You know, you got to take value in yourself. You know, people may not have a lot of economic wealth, but they're still valued. So it's perceived. You know what I'm saying? So if you think about what wealth is in the first place, you know, if you're talking about just monetary things, but then you also have to think about systematic things as well. So I mean, you know, if you value yourself, then you're valuable, and then you will basically put out things a little bit different in how you perceive wealth.
Yeah, well, I think it's a mindset, definitely a mindset, because of how we think. We're broken people, so people, you know, when you look at it, we do got a lot of wealth, a lot of economics, like $1 trillion spending power, collectively as black people.
Right.
So, you know, clothes, jewelry, cars, all that's money right there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Another thing is student loans.
Yeah.
Is economically, you know what I'm saying, invest in yourself. Some degrees are bad investments to me. Just me personally. because you can't be owing 80,000 and then your salary out the gate is not going to be 3/4 of that.
Right. So the thing about the student loans is like, what's your ROI? If I'm spending 100,000, I'm going to a job that only makes 50,000. You know, it doesn't make sense. Or even if you're learning something that's going to be obsolete. I mean, with the way of technology and the way of things being innovative, you have to be going up with the times. I mean, some things are going to be consistent. But I mean, education is a lifelong journey. You know.
Let me just say about that analogy you gave, because as a business owner and a business person, sometimes that may not seem like a bad deal. What you're saying, you spend 100,000, but you're going to be 50,000, making 50,000. That's 50,000 every year consistently. You make your money back, right? So like even with equipment, you know, I buy a lot of equipment. I spend a lot of money on this equipment. I don't charge that. I don't charge the client for all that, but I know I'm going to make my money over time.
Write it off for the business expense, right?
So some of the degrees. Now, I'm also in agreement with you, because you can't go get a master's degree in social work to make $40,000, and you owe like house money. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. But in some ways, you could say, okay, some of it is acceptable that for some people. I personally don't agree with $100,000 in student loans. You know, because you can't declare bankruptcy with a student loan. But you can't save you. There's no protections. You got to pay it, right? But making money, you say, okay, you coming in at 50,000. The thing is, okay, 50,000 over time, or can you move up?
In your lifetime, right?
Because these degrees get you in the door.
Right.
They don't say, "Oh, you're going to be a CEO right now."
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely a pro fan of I'm pro education, but I'm not pro exploitation, or I mean, when I was living overseas, they had subsidies and they had free education for certain things. And I think when you have education in your society, you have a better society and a better environment. So I mean, for here, it seems like a lot of things are based off capitalism, and it's based off economics. So I mean, and I think education doesn't necessarily have to be. It's a social control, but but it's a well-being of the whole society. If you have a better educated society, you have a better society. So I mean, it's just like for those people in power, those people are governing these things. You know, I think you can solve a lot of these problems with the proper education of the masses of people. And economically, you know, it's better when you have a better educated society, because you know you can have a better responsible society.
It's a systematic game, right? When you look at education, because there's certain levels of education where, like Harvard and Yale, where you have a good network, where you come out, you automatically have some, compared to a community college. Not knocking community college. So I don't want anybody to think I'm knocking community college.
Right.
And I also think that, like, when you look at things like, you would give me $100,000 for education, right? I can take a loan out, don't matter. But I couldn't walk to a bank and get a $100,000 loan to start a business.
Right.
Like, you understand what I'm trying to say? Because let people choose what they want to invest in. Right. So when it comes back to education, I think it's control. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the carrot that they're dangling to people, because, all right, you need the education. But then when you go into education, you being black, you're not going to be able to sit in certain arenas, right? Because, when you look at Wall Streets and you look at certain high-level positions, you don't see that many black faces in these positions.
Again, historically, you've been kept out of it. These Harvards and Yales were built by black people, black labor, and black, so like I said, what we value. We have the resources to do these things. And, going before these institutions, there were places that that were black thoughts and black education was being built before these places. And historically, these places kept us out. You know what I mean? So it wasn't, didn't have the access and to be, were brought to the table in these institutions. You know what I mean? And this is what I'm talking about, institutional racism, or institutionalized things that kind of set us back, because, we were smart enough to go to Harvard, we were smart enough to go to Yale, but since this idea of you're not worthy, you're not good, you're not valued enough, or you're less than, so-called elite things, and you know what I'm saying, is how we devalue. I mean, people devalued us, and to have access to higher learning.
Well, I just talk about economic
Economic
empowerment,
right?
Because that's what it is. Because 70%, right, of middle class kids fall out of middle class once they become adults, right? So that's a huge number, right? Because it's no economic empowerment being taught. It's taught to be a worker,
right?
Not to be independent,
Empowered.
not to empower yourself. So it's nothing to really be passed down. So I'm just saying, not to knock education, but we need to kind of shift it to another way that we look at economics, another way that we look at, how to get to that next level. Because if not, we're going to continue to be where we at if we don't change the mindset. Because it's the same thing. Like 70% is a big number, right?
Big number.
To still be that, you was middle class. Now you're not even middle class when you get to adults. So that's saying something happened along that way that needs to be evaluated. Okay. Like, so, I agree with, what we all saying, but I'm saying we need to reevaluate the way we look at economics and economic empowerment.
But my thing is like cooperative economics. You know what I'm saying? If we look at economics cooperatively and as a group, but people are a lot of stressed on individual. And if you're trying to build anything, you can't do it all by yourself. It takes a group.
Well, that's two things I want to address that, because part of the trauma of us being through what we've been through made us more individualistic, right? So it's not an easy thing for us to say, let's get together and do this, because when you're forced into a life and death situation and you gotta live and you want to live and somebody else dies, you're gonna be more focused on yourself, right? And that's what we would train. So I teach computer science, but I always tell people, the principles that we learn in computer science are mimics of life. It's the illusion of choice. We've been trained to do something because of the trauma that we was exposed to. They knew how our minds would react to it, because this is very scientific. Slavery wasn't something somebody tripped over a rock and came up with. This was planned. Over centuries, this was planned. So they know that you're going to be more individualistic, which they can count on the fact that you're not going to be able to get together and pull your resources together, because we've been under this training, rat in a maze, for hundreds of years. So, yes, education, I believe education, we survivalists, right? I believe that education does play a role in it, but everybody's not cut out for traditional school, college education. So when with positive economics can reach the person who's not college, who doesn't want to be in college, that's when you know it's impactful and it can change the landscape for all of us. Because if we think that we have to go to college to get this, and all of us have college degrees here, right? But you got to go to college to get this, then a whole group is left out, right? Now you mentioned something that I like, stuff that we value. What are some of the stuff that we value? Just talk about it. Let's hear it.
Well, for me, my core value is just people, and like my community, my family, and those are things that I value. Everything else is just a thing, because things depreciate in value. So I mean, what's valuable then is not necessarily valuable now, or some things do appreciate in value. So what do we hold valuable? So those things that increase in value are, education, you know what I'm saying? Because once you have the knowledge, you can apply it and it lasts, nobody can take that from you. And you have that through your lifetime. So that's, you hold valuable to, the information, but, also things that, that are concrete. As if we want to talk about like hard commodities and things like that, like gold, gold doesn't, depreciate in value. Those things like these assets are things that increase over time instead of depreciating time. But I think for a lot of our community, we look at the shiny stuff. You know, the things that look hot back now, I see that Lamborghini, but as soon as you buy that Lamborghini, it's going to depreciate as soon as you get off the lot, unless you keep it into a place that you hold it as a collected item, and then you can, you know, sell it later on. But we need to have more things that appreciate in value instead of decrease in value, so we can have more assets. You know, so that rich people don't spend money on just shiny stuff. You know, we got to get things that are worth, you know, and it's going to hold their worth on the long term.
I look at family, you know, me personally as family. As far as community-wise, is a lot of, you know, people are psychologically engineered to value certain things. So it's, you know, it's a term group thinking. Okay. So everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people have the same mentality. You know, want the same thing. That's why everybody kind of look the same. They dress the same. They go to the same restaurants. It's no independent thinking anymore. You know what I'm saying? So the value system is kind of engineered and modified. It's why it's so hard to collectively get together as a group, because our values is totally different.
Right.
You know, so when there should be one agenda. And that agenda should be moving forward collectively as a group of people. So.
Even with that, like, so the value system, I believe that's, we talk in the tech field, is we talk about social engineering, right? We are the most socially engineered people, period, because of what happened to us, right? And broadly, it reaches out and expands out to other groups, especially when somebody want to conduct attacks, cyber attacks, or hacks on people. But we are very heavily socially engineered in a system designed it that way, right? Yeah, I think that, like, the things that I value is pretty much the same the values that y'all have, right? Family, you know, education, collective economics, right? But it's not a strong thing, and I see that. When I look at what we spend money on, it makes me question our sanity sometimes, right? Because, you know, a person can be insane, right? A person could be very, very sick, but functional. True. So we work jobs, right? Like, this is a little exercise I do with my children, right? We talk about, tell me what you did, right? And they break down everything they did during the day. They got up, they brushed your teeth. How long you took to brush your teeth? And I ask them these questions because it makes them aware of what they did, right? Now, going down to work, okay, what did I do? I went to work, I taught, boom, 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 boom. I got this much money, right? Okay, what happened to the money? Write down on paper what happened to the money. And then a person realized that they blew a large portion of the money without even thinking. I want to know your monthly bills. What's your monthly bills? Oh, you got cable, plus you got Hulu, plus you got Disney, plus you got Netflix, plus you got Amazon Prime. That's a lot of money on something you have to sit down and watch. So if you're sitting down and watching it, you're not out there making money because you're sitting down watching it. Or I just have it just in case. I don't really watch TV. So why are you paying for it? Okay, so tracking down what happens to the money? What kind of food do we eat? That has a cost. Fast food is convenient. It's made fast. It's not healthy. You don't have to cook. But I used to order. I still oftentimes order from Grubhub. It costs a lot of damn money.
Yeah.
Like,
a lot of taxes.
I know somebody told me they spent $50,000 during the pandemic 1 year in fast food deliveries. $50,000.
What's they buying?
I don't even know. But they spent $50,000 in deliveries with the delivery apps. So we get the money. But we don't hold on to it. Because there's always something flashy to buy. And this is why I had the conversations during the last episode about the life insurance, where I was talking about term. We go for the biggest thing. So you get a cell phone, and your cell phone has a special GPS calling feature that you can call from anywhere in the world, but you ain't going anywhere in the world. You staying where you at, but you're paying for it, right? And we have this special feature that you can upgrade the phone whenever a new phone come out. You're paying for that too, right? We're gonna give you all the data that you could possibly use, but you don't use a lot of data. So they oversell everything. So that's whole life and universal life. It's an oversell, right? You're gonna pay a premium price for mediocre payout. So our economic conversation, all of the things we're spending that we value, that we put money on, right? Like you said, are these things furthering our life? Is it growing our potential to earn and be more successful? Or is it taken away from that? I know people who have like every game system. So, you know, I'm gonna say it, I'm a cheap person. I'm cheap. Right?
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I'm cheap for a reason. Like, it has to be logical. So if I buy every game system, first of all, I can't play every game system at the same time, right? And while I'm playing a game that's leisure, I can't be out there making money. Unless I'm doing something where I'm streaming the game and I'm doing something with Twitch. So that's how I rationalize a lot of stuff. Same thing with TV, media consumption. Okay, I may have a few minutes to listen to this, but I gotta go get money. So in order to get money, I gotta put these things down, right? But then again, rent. You heard about the rents being go up. I think they said 9% for 2 years, possibly 4% for one. Okay, so everything finds a way to chip away at your money, right? And then the fact that we can't collectively get together and do something, right? We all somehow in our mind think that we're gonna make it by ourselves with no help. It's a mass psychosis to me, because nothing works that way, right? Nothing. But we somehow, we keep on doing the same thing, looking for a different result.
Right, but the thing that I've noticed, especially with our community, like I said, like for people who come to this country, especially other immigrants, and they have the immigrant mentality. But since we never really had that mentality, the immigrant mentality, to collectively come together and build upon what we have, because we share a same experience or same kind of background. You know, for African Americans, we have it, but we don't apply it into our economic situation because we're here. And like I see a lot of immigrant groups. They come together, put their resources together. They could get one building, like like the Albanians, or you see in the West Africans. They come and they build their resources together, and they collectively build something. We're gonna strive for this. We're gonna sacrifice for this. But this one building, we always gonna sleep on the floor, this, that, and the other. But then we own this building. Then we're gonna do the same thing to the next. But African Americans don't really do that. That have that same kind of mentality.
But there's a reason. I'm gonna say this because we did do that.
We did do that.
And then they killed us and took it anyway.
Exactly. And
so they're not killing and taking it from the immigrants.
Yeah,
right.
So that's
how I wanted to go. That's just like the Black Wall Street. Like I said, it's the institutionalized, because you're going against a program, a set
that cast you in a certain light, and you're trying to break out of that light.
So we're American because we fought to be American. Right. You know, when every war that an American had, Black people were in it. But we fought just to fight. We had to fight someone just to fight another enemy. Right. But we had an enemy within, and that's the whole thing about devalue, not having people perceiving you a certain way and devaluing you, and understand that the value is placed in us and our community.
I want to ask a question. So, do you think those groups that's come here and they're being allowed, right? So, are those groups now systematically being put in place to replace Black people?
Well, you get immigrants, kind of fuel the economy, fuel the new. This is so-called the new world, the new America. You know what I mean? There's always been an influx of people, and this is the thing, and this is the whole thing about class, like a bottom class or this, that, and the other. But when it's for the immigrants who are coming in. African Americans were never immigrants. You get what I'm saying? We were taken here and brought here against our will. We're the only people that was enslaved in this land. And then you talk about the genocide of Native Americans, and this is the history of this country. So it has to come to grips of the truth of the matter first. First, you have to say the truth of what happened, and then you can heal from it. But if people are not telling the whole story, then we have fractions of it, and this is with the problems. And we see a lot of problems and social issues because of this lack of truth and the lack of of what exactly happened to us to put us in the predicament that we're in, and the history of stopping Black progress, Black people who are doing something.
I want to answer that question and say absolutely, unequivocally, yes. That I do believe that they're here to replace us, and I read an anthropological paper written by a professor in 2015 that said exactly that. Because they said that corporate America, see, the thing is when we talk about America, then you want to talk about corporate America. Mm-hmm. Corporations run the world, in my opinion. They have the power to influence governments, allow them to do what they do. If they want to sell poison to you, pay enough money to the government put it in all the stores, right? The poison, right? So that's corporate America. So corporate America said in these paper that I read, and I'm going to actually bring this paper up, it said that America is tired of Black people who were descendants of slaves complaining about the bad stuff they did. So they encourage bringing in foreign Blacks and giving them positions and opportunities who will always proudly wave the American flag and praise America and never talk about what America did because they didn't do it to them, right? So the last few jobs that I went through the last few years, they were not American-born Blacks. They was from Africa. Mm-hmm. And I remember having conversations about stuff like the African American Day Parade. And I was involved with it. I did the sound. So I was asking my boss at the time, hey, you want to make a donation to the African American Day Parade? He said, no, I'm not going to do that. And he was Black. And I said, why? He said, because they don't have a point to the African American Day Parade. You get all these people together and you don't mobilize them to do nothing but just stand there and watch a parade. Mm. So, and he was in charge of an organization that gave money to Harlem. Yeah. So the thing that I learned is there's a different perception, and people may feel sensitive about it. But I'm a college professor. I have a lot of students who's Black who's not from this country, and they have a perception of us,
right?
Like we're no good.
Yeah, that's the perception that people that's been placed upon us. Mm-hmm. But also, when you talk about corporations and you talk about immigrants, but you also talk about globalization. So when you talk about corporations and the global reach, you know what I'm saying? We're not. It's just right. The internet and technology kind of shrinks the world, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But nowadays we can have a broadcast, and it broadcasts to all four corners of the planet, and the world has always been there, but now we have more access to it. And the thing about immigrants coming in, it's the whole world here now. So I mean, the corporate reach of and the globalization of all these multinational corporations, they can find a cheaper labor source, somewhere West Africa. You go to the Caribbean, you go to China, you go to all this other stuff. So when you talk about the economics of what's happening within our community, they'll call a guy from Senegal or Mali or whoever who won't try to put up a fight or complain, because the standard of living is a little bit different, because they're coming into an institution or a system that we know already because we've been here. Mm-hmm. We built these systems because we helped build it, but we're not sharing the proceeds of it, because America was built off the backs of enslaved people. That's how they got that jumpstart. But again, these businesses and stuff like that, they could bring in a cheaper laser source or somebody who doesn't know the intricate systems of it, because we've been in this for a long time. Mm. But also, another point that I was trying to make is also people in other countries also perceive of education is a little bit different than the people here, because they're thinking of it as an opportunity, but we're thinking about, but we were here from the beginning. We were all along from these corporations, because we know they were built off the backs of us. You're talking about J.P. Morgan, you're talking about the Rockefellers, you're talking about Smith Barney, all these things. You understand that the economic system was based off of enslaved people. So we're saying, we helped build this, but we never received the the residual
That's
benefits.
a key point to, the point I was trying to make, just about the system being in place to replace black people, right? Because a lot of, immigrants, I don't know the right political term, I hope I'm not offending anybody, a lot of them come here and get benefits, right? Mm-hmm. So benefits of taxpayers' money, people that have been working here, don't even get, right? So it's not like they're just coming here building up to get this thing. They're already coming, receiving something. You can come here and get Medicaid, get welfare, get housing. Like that's a come up when you have people here that been here all their life can't even get these same necessities from the government,
right?
Like, which is a thing. And the whole PPP loan and all that, the scam thing, like those that been going on, right? It just, I feel like they opened the curtain and exposed it because, how you think, the Arab store got here, the Chinese store, because in my community, it just was like the Puerto Ricans, the Latinos had the stores. And then, you had, an Asian store here and there. But now it's predominantly ran by Arabs and Asians.
But Puerto Ricans is a part of the U.S., it was U.S. territory. They were always trying to fight the independence. Right. But, they were still a victim of Americanism. And the thing about, I welcome, for me, I'm an international person, and I welcome all people. I think, mankind is one. I say Ubuntu, humanity is one. There's only one shared humanity. But my thing is the people, especially specifically the group of African Americans, like I said, we've been a part of this. We know the system so much, so long, and this is what the gripe is. But we also have to be updated to our current struggle. I mean, meaning that we can't do the same thing expecting the same. We can't keep doing the thing over and over and expecting a different result. We have to kind of switch up and understand that we're in a global market. So we can use our resources like 1, 2, and 3 and say we don't have to just sell here, but we can sell to China. We can sell to Arabia. We can do all these things. So, but we have to be in that understanding of collective economics and pull our resources together so we can better our situation.
When you say collectively, who are you referring to collectively?
I'm talking about African Americans. Okay. Specifically, because like I said, we have a purchasing power, we have a spending power of more than some countries.
No,
meaning we have an economic. You think about most of the NBA, thinking about the NFL. These are multi-million-dollar corporations, right? But who fuels these corporations? We do. Yeah. So I mean, it's like we have the ability, we have the talent, and the economic resources to be self-independent. But again, it's just we have to have that collective understanding and the collective thing of doing for ourselves and re-understanding how much power we have.
So how do we even get to that conversation of being collective? Because I want you can see these two books that we have here, right?
Black Labor, White Wealth.
Black Labor, White Wealth, and Powernomics.
So exactly.
Someone has been talking about this
for years,
for decades.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about
40 years.
90s. This is in 2001. Dr. Claude Anderson been talking about how we could do things in finance, and he ran people's campaigns in the political realm. But it feels like people didn't hear it, the message. He got 5 books. I only put 2. I have all 5 of them.
Right.
But he's talking about like the concept of you got these big sports conglomerates, all of these things. But when we had I mentioned before, when we had our leagues, the Negro leagues, we was funding and fueling our own progression, right? We was paying money in the Negro leagues. The people in the Negro leagues lived in the neighborhood. They brought the neighborhood up. They spent their money in the other black business. And then as soon as they said, we're going to integrate, here goes that word, we're going to integrate our league, everybody went and gave their money to them. Their money goes into their community, build up their community, and now our streets are broken, our schools are bad, and we don't know what happened. Right? Stop taking your money from us and giving it to somebody else. Is there any black restaurants in the community? Probably not, but black restaurants. We spend our money, and listen, I don't have nothing against Chinese or any other people, Asians or anything, but we always spend our money with somebody else. Mm-hmm. And we don't ever get to, as a group, take a few steps up the ladder unless it was a Black Wall Street situation where they wound up killing us, taking it anyway. Right. So how do we kind of move forward today to kind of encourage Black spending with Black and rebuilding Black, like even though we don't own our own neighborhoods, but how do we do that?
Well, we first of all have to be more involved in politics because policies mean a lot. Like, you know what I'm saying? They just had like if they want to build a shelter in your community, other cultures get out and protest, not here. We have to be more involved in politics because a lot of the old politicians sold the communities out. Right. This is how gentrification. When you look at Harlem, like it's Harlem is not Harlem anymore. So it's so hard. You got it's a whole new word for that. So we have to be more involved in that. But also, Blacks, 65% of Blacks are consumed to 16 states. Right. So out of those 16 states, is the spending power like what is the spending power there? What is the voice there? What is the politicians in place that's advocating for those Black people there?
Are they advocating?
Yeah, are they even advocating?
Yeah.
So this is why I say the political power is important because policies holds a lot of weight. We can't just vote Democrat because we Black.
Right.
So I'm an independent. So
they talk about this in Powernomics and in several of his books. And I was an independent too. I switched to Democratic only because I couldn't vote in primaries, right? I mean, I could only vote in primaries. I couldn't vote before the primaries, so they block you out, right? But in his book, he's talking about we overwhelmingly support one group who never gave us anything. Like, they'll say they're gonna do something, and then they don't do it. So, and then we still do it. We still support them. So I vote with what I think we're going to get from who could provide it, not with a party.
Right. Vote for your interests.
Yeah, vote on your interests.
Vote and then interests. But I think
we vote as a group. My family votes as a group. We all sit down and say, we're going to support this person because this, and then we all agree and we all vote.
Right.
It's not a family that's with split votes.
Right.
So that's another thing we got to start doing. We got to have conversations about this, politicians and politics, and vote as a group, not as individuals.
Correct.
Right, but I think that's a community effort. I think we still have to have a list of demands so we can have the resources to be allocated to the community properly, and those things that we hold valuable. Because the outside group, the people, the elected officials, don't really have the best interests of the community. So I mean, when we understand that, understand the politics of it, because the resources are there, but then it's not being spent where they need them to go. So
I'm a more of a
just
moving silence.
But you got to be politically aware. And
right.
Politically aware, it means economically, because the economics reflects the political, and political reflects the economics.
But this is like, this is me. This is my approach. Yeah, you're gonna say to your politicians you want to hold them accountable. You're gonna say that we want this, that, and the third. But if I know the reputation is you never deliver on anything, I'm gonna move in silence. I'm gonna meet privately with people and just make things happen to a point where you're not going to have any power. I'm just going to do what got to be done. That's how I think, because I'm relying on somebody else's power to give me something, and I have not made it through life doing that.
Well, this is what, like Frederick Douglass says. It says power proceeds nothing without a demand, and never has and never will. So it's like nobody's going to give you power. And especially those people in power, it's just like. But the thing again is institutionalized racism. It was just what you see with the insurrection. It was white folks doing this, and this is how this country was won. You think about that. It was say no, we don't like something, we're going to change it. You get what I'm trying to say? But when it's Black folks doing this, we're considered terrorists. Or we consider it something else. Yeah. Because what just happened?
The same thing, the same scenario, different color.
This is what the Black Panther Party was trying to do this for how long?
Even looking
at again, they were stopped, and there was put in the thing, but what they were doing was good. With the breakfast program, with the sickle cell anemia, with doing, all these things. But
they're terrorists.
Yeah, exactly, because they consider that a threat to the power structure.
Yeah.
When we try to say, okay, no, hold up, there's a better way of doing this that's could benefit us, but we always stopped. Because, like I said, it's the institution itself what didn't include us.
And so I will let you finish, but we're gonna try to get to this economic thing because we're gonna wrap the conversation soon. But what you gonna say?
I was gonna say that's why I say getting into politics is very important because those people that come over here now can vote, right? Mm-hmm. So if somebody do you a favor, right, you feel more obligated in allegiance to that person that did you a favor to allow you to come over here. Right, and I feel like a lot of people that come over here are gonna be Democrats, right? So they're gonna vote in a certain type of way, but that undermines, right, the agenda of black people. So that's the point I'm trying to make because the agenda that's on the table is reparation. We always get off this. Let me get off this point, right? So my thing is, right, we've been fighting for reparation for a long time. Like it's been a long time coming, right? So, during the election, you still hear about it more and more, the last couple of elections, right? So it's like we at the front of the line, right? So now we have the LGBTQ, we have immigrants. So now those issues are more important than the reparations. So now we going back into the line, right? So I got to get off this line, right, of Democrat and go back into my agenda. So I think that the old way of thinking, the old politicians, is not speaking about reparation. Right. They're saying vote again, and we got you again. It's the same dance. So that's almost insane. Right. For you continue to do the same thing over and over and
expecting a different result. That's a form of insanity. Right. So. Speaking on that, it's like I said, we got to change it. We got to change the game. But also, with the immigrants coming in, or the people who are coming to America, the new Americans, and then you have a new African Americans, because you have people coming straight from the continent of Africa. But they also need to be educated on the history of America, especially with Black America. The reason why you have voting rights is because Black people, and eventually at this time we pushed we created the narrative of equality and democracy to this, because if the voting rights, civil rights, it's only one generation ago. You see what I'm trying to say? It was a point in time that people that looked like you and I could not vote. We didn't have a say. So I mean, again, they have to be educated on the history of why you have these rights. Because of Black people, again, off the backs of Blacks, because we created, we put this thing forward. So we got to have some kind of credit and some type of equity.
I want to say that, speaking to my students who are not from this country, Black students who are not from this country, they've been fed a persona through media about who we are.
Right.
So whenever one of us do something bad, we all over the TV, we get coverage, right? And I'm going to specifically talk about Black men, right? Because I'm going to always bring this point up. This is even the reason why we formed this show. We're the target. Black men, not to say Black women are not targets, Black men is absolutely the target, right? They've been sold the idea that we're criminals, that we're violent, that we this, that we that. We don't know how to deal with money. We treat women bad. We this, we that. All these ideas by the same people who did bad stuff to us. The same people. So they got that idea. They come here and, like, I had conversations. They're like, don't associate with them because they're a bad influence. Right. Okay? I've been in this community for a very long time. If they saw me in the street, and I often do this when I come into class. I got this hat on, I got my hoodie on, got my backpack, got my earphones in my ears, and I'll just walk into class and just stand in front of the class for a little bit just to look who's sitting down, and then I go to the front and I start teaching. Nobody say hi to me, nothing. So there's this perception that we're all these bad things, and the perception came from the people who did all the bad things.
Right.
Right? And on the immigrant conversation, there's a shift in what an immigrant is now as opposed to what it was before. And I want to make the distinction before we wrap this. An immigrant now is a person coming here looking for opportunities because they see a better opportunity here, right? And that's similar to the immigrants back in the day, but I'm going to say it this way, and some people are going to feel some kind of way about it. The immigrants back in the day was like, come kill natives so you could get land. That was a subsidy. Come get something you don't own.
Right.
Come help us get rid of these savages,
right.
Because a lot of them killed. They don't talk about that. So I cringe when I hear somebody say, my parents came here with nothing and built all of this stuff. Okay, what did they do to build all this stuff? Because people was enticed to come over here to kill people,
right,
to get the land.
But
so that's the immigrant story to me that I feel that nobody's talking about.
But also when what MLK was talking about, you know, this thing about racism and racialize, you know, a lot of things, and with the racism also affected economics, because you know, like the Irish, for instance, who also, you know, they migrated to this country, but they were also ostracized with other Europeans, but because of their skin color, you know, they were, you know, when the government was giving subsidies to, you know, white peasants and stuff like that, you know, they included them. I mean, because of their white skin. But no, don't give it to these black people who need it. But again, the institutionalized racism that this government perpetuated on us. You know, this is what the civil rights was about, this and that. But again, what Malcolm was talking about, this is human rights now. This is it was inhumane. You know, what was happened to African Americans was humanitarian. It was basically a crime against humanity. So, you know, again, we have to go to the truth of the heart of who we are and how we get to this, how we came here. Because, you know, slavery wasn't just, you know, just enslaving your body, but also enslaving your mind. So you wasn't able to read, you wasn't able to information, you wasn't able to, you know, just be a human being. So, you know, that's what we're breaking out of. And this, we're the survivors. We survived it of the Middle Passage. We survived it of this inhumane kind of treatment of human beings. And, you know,
you want to try to chime in?
Yeah, I feel like whoever come over here they gotta educate themselves. Like that's like we gotta stop pacifying people that come over here that they don't know, or we gotta know people know they're very intelligent. You know how to maneuver. You need to know how to deal with people. You need to know how not to call somebody a nigga just because you see other blacks do it. There's certain cultures and certain, you know, values that's still installed in the black community that need to be practiced. Like you can't go anywhere else in the world and not understand some form of the culture there. Like some places you go, if you don't know, you might get killed.
Well,
not here, right?
Right.
So it's a mentality, and I don't want to seem like we bash anybody or attack anybody. It's just a conversation, a dialogue about cultures.
Yeah, it's through our lens. So
they need to be, because now it's divisive, right? The same system that oppressing us are using other cultures to attack blacks.
Us. To oppress, to keep us oppressed.
So you can't be you can't be misinformed, because you need to understand why we are angry here.
Right.
Like when people say, well, blacks, y'all always angry. Y'all need to pull yourself up by the bootstrap. Like there need to be some education on that. Like, so it can't be on us. Right. We can't educate you and fight the battle.
So like on that conversation, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Nobody in America did that.
No.
As a matter of fact, we was the bootstrap they pulled themselves up on.
Right.
And nobody wants to talk about that. Everybody came here, the greatest ultimate subsidy. Come to this country and get some free land. It was owned by somebody before it was free. They didn't own it. Bang, bang, they kill them. No, now I got land. I'm going to tell people to come get some land. They could do the same thing I did. So that's the greatest subsidy. The land was not possessed by Europeans. They killed for it. So immigrants in general, they killed for the land, stole it. It was a robbery. It was a theft, right? And you get here, and then they make papers that say, oh, you can't do this, and make laws and rules, and you got to fit in the system, and then they wind up rebelling against each other, right? Because one person wants to further oppress the other group, and now you have this country, right? But that was built off, we was the subsidy, right? And now today, we are talented, like masterfully talented, and we are still the subsidies for everybody else. They get in our neighborhood, they copy our culture, they copy whatever we create, they do this, they do that. We gotta always go through them. We don't own no stations, we don't own no radio, we don't own stuff, we don't own things. So we gotta go through them, and then what do they say? Well, I don't really like what you were saying right there. Could you change that? Now you can't be yourself.
Right. So
now you gotta
everybody
twist to what they want while they mold the future, and they don't see you in the future as the king on a chessboard.
Well, it's just like the great late Paul Mooney. He said, "Everybody want to be black, but nobody want to be black. Or everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga." But it's like, again, you know, we're the most heavily copied, you know, black men are the heavily copied males on the whole planet. You know, everybody loves the hip hop culture, but doesn't understand the pain that goes along with it. Yeah. So, you know, again, it's just for having value in ourselves. You know, again, it was a wrong that's trying to be corrected, but we're still filled with residual effects of what happened. And this is some of the trauma. We take our trauma and we put it into something that sounds fly. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just the you know, blues. You know, jazz. I mean, all this comes from, you know, some type of pain. And that these are the songs of the soul that we kind of trying to release. Some
of our legendary singers made a comment. They were saying America loves black music. They just don't love it from black people. Huh. So, parting words. Let's wrap this up, because I want to wrap it up on a note on the, you know, the economics.
Economics, most definitely. It's just, yeah. We gotta own our masters, you know, and become the master. You know what I mean? Mastering self. So I mean, and then putting our resources together to build something, because, you know, we gotta find value in ourselves. You know what I mean? Instead of having somebody else come out and try to validate us.
73% of black consumers don't have no credit, right? So my thing is about economic empowerment and educating early about economics, because that's the future. Like, that's the only way we're gonna get from underneath this threshold, is us to understand economics. For we can buy politicians the same way other people buy politicians.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna say that I agree with the education component of how money works. Because that's the missing link for us. We all know how to get money. I don't care if they went to school. I don't care if you didn't graduate. I don't care. We know how to make money.
Yeah,
we know how to get
something.
something.
It's not what you cop, it's what you keep.
It's what you keep. So how do you keep it? What is savings? How do you save? Is the bank the right move? What's the interest rate the bank is paying? I said this in the last conversation. If people didn't see that one, you could check us. There's going to be a link somewhere on the screen. You could just click the link. I specifically talked about savings, interest rates, and all of that. We don't know how money works. Right? As a group, as a collective group, African Americans, majority of us do not know how money works. And then the few that know how money works can't get the buy-in with other people to go do something, right? So we want to keep the money under our mattress. So we got to get an education about how money works. I started this journey myself. I told you I got licensed to do life insurance. I'm studying investments, retirement plans. I'm studying it because it's new to me at my age. I'm middle age. It's new to me, right? And I'm like, nobody talks about this stuff. And this is like the secret underlying conversation for certain groups of people who know. 2 of my students knew about it yesterday when I brought it up, and neither one of them was black.
Out of how many?
I have 90 students on Friday. 2.
Damn.
One was Caucasian and one was Asian. And they started breaking down, the interest rates in the banks, and then the IRAs, and boom. They started finishing the sentences. 2 people. Everybody else was like Bambi in the headlights. They was like, huh? And later on, they was like, nobody talks about this stuff. People who have degrees in economics don't talk about this stuff. Like, why? Now, I'm not gonna say all people, because I just want to give a plug. Peace to Dr. Boyce Watkins,
definitely.
because I am subscribed to his channel. I pay monthly. I got these books because of him. During the pandemic, I started paying attention. I had personal conversations with him. He introduced me to other people who can help further what I'm doing with the music and everything. He got me an interview with somebody. Like, we had personal conversations. And seeing him talk about Dr. Claude Anderson, and I started going and looking and researching heavy economic heavy hitter. That made me buy the books. And then I said to myself, what's the point of me knowing this if my wife doesn't know it? So she had to read the books. And then I was like, what's the point of her knowing it if my children don't know it? So we read all 5 books. All of us read the books already. And then we was like, oh, there's more books to get. We started buying different books. But I believe for us to find our way out of the basement of our financial situation as a group, we need to buy the books from him, not from knockoffs or whatever. We need to read these books. We need to have book reading sessions. If people don't have the time to read, we need to have these books, and then have conversations after digesting these books. I think it's required reading.
It's required reading, most definitely. But my thing is having the knowledge and then also applying it. So
he talks about them in the books.
When it's like applied knowledge, and I think for like black folks, we're educated people. We're not stupid. So I mean, you have the information, but it's just now applying it. Apply your knowledge.
That was the thing when I read the books. When I read the books, he not only is masterfully laid out. He's like, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's how you get to the solution. I said, he wrote this book in 2001. He wrote this book in the 90s, and nobody did it?
Right.
Wait. Somebody sat down and wrote the game plan out.
Right. They give you a blueprint.
It's written.
Dope era, crack era, pill era, now the weed era. So this is why, because they can't focus.
Oh yeah, that's another conversation. We're gonna talk about addictions and things that kind of take you out of your right state of mind, because we talk about that in an upcoming show. But I was like, oh, they're going to legalize marijuana. Makes sense. They want a bunch of people out of their right state of mind. That's how I registered. Now, people who be getting high was like, yo, this is great. I can get high all the time. I see people rolling blunts in the train station, smoking them on the train. So what is that saying to me? It's not a thing of freedom to do what you want to do. In my eyes, it's you so addicted that you can't wait till you get out the train station to smoke it. You have a serious level of addiction. Right. We could talk about that in another show. I just want to wrap this and say thank you everybody for checking us out. We're gonna come up with another topic soon, but stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and share this with everybody. Peace. Okay. After Elemental,
D Chorus.
This is Mubdi. Peace and I'm out. This is Through Our Lens.